Hello, everybody. Welcome to our conversation today with James. You might remember him from last week when we talked with Bill, but he's going to tell us more of his personal story today. And so I thank you for all being here, and let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. If you have any comments or questions for what we're talking about, and we will, get back to you on that once we post this video. My name is Dina Mitchell. I'm the founder and executive director of the Realize Foundation. Our mission is to reduce suicide statistics across humanity. In October 2020, we launched the Save a Life Foundation or Save a Life Challenge, which is all about having the conversation. Our theory, instead of targeting only the humans that are struggling with ideation, is that we spread awareness and education to all humans. So when the person struggling is ready to have the conversation, there are people around them that will understand how to listen and be supportive. And in turn, we will stop the stigma. This will cause people to get help when they need it and ultimately reduce the suicide statistics. You can learn more at our website, which is realizefoundation.org, or you can just search hashtag SaveALifeChallenge. So, this month of June 2021, we are focusing on the first responder community, and we are aware that the last 18 months have been extremely difficult for everyone, and first responders especially, because they've been taking care of all of us in a hard time. So, today we're talking to James about his personal story, and I'm going to let him take that away.
Thank you very much, Dina. Thank you, everyone who's watching and who's taking part. I love the idea of the Save Life Challenge, and I believe that having a conversation is really important. So I'm honored to have a few minutes today to tell you a little bit about my story and the program that I created alongside the Realize Foundation. Again, my name is James, and I'm a paramedic. I've been a paramedic since I was 19 years old. I was an emergency medical technician for a few years before that. For anyone unfamiliar with the profession, you start in your EMT career as an EMT basic, and then you continue on through additional certifications and trainings to become a paramedic. So I was a paramedic very young in my life and have been a paramedic in some facet, form, or way since. I'm now coming almost up to my 18th year as a paramedic, and it's been an amazing journey. I have helped countless people. I have learned from amazing mentors. I have been part of tremendous health systems and health services, and I've also made amazing friends and people that I truly consider family all throughout my career. That has not had its fair share of struggles and trials and tribulations. And we spend a lot of time talking about the importance of recognizing the impact that healthcare providers have in not only the lives of those they treat, but in also the impact of treating those people and helping those that you can help have on providers. We know that rates of post traumatic stress disorder and of suicide are tremendously high in the first responder community and the healthcare provider community as well. And Dina and I are working hard, not only together, but through my foundation as well, to create change and to share stories of our growth and our experiences to make everyone understand that it's okay to not be okay and to help create some resources and show people resources that are already available when they need them. I'd mentioned a few minutes ago that I had been a paramedic for quite some time and am still actively a paramedic in Boston, Massachusetts on the critical care transport team. So I routinely see the sickest of the sick and those that are the most in need each and every day that I go to work. I've worked in public health systems all throughout New York State. I've worked in fire departments and EMS agencies all throughout Maine and Massachusetts as well. And the one universal thing I can tell you is that it is a tremendously rewarding and tremendously challenging task to be a first responder of any variety: law enforcement, fire and EMS personnel, healthcare personnel, it doesn't matter. any facet that you're in healthcare, it can be tremendously rewarding and tremendously challenging. I, like so many other of my EMS colleagues, have had the unfortunate task of standing at the funeral services of colleagues of mine who have passed away and colleagues of mine who have died by suicide. And this continued turmoil of the stress of doing the job and the stress of continuing to do the job, working with people, longer hours, shorter staffing, all almost universal experiences throughout healthcare and first responder communities. To see that continue to stress and to weigh on my brothers and sisters, and watching those outcomes be upsetting, or seeing someone leave the profession all the way to catastrophic, and seeing someone die by suicide really helped encourage me to create a mental health and suicide awareness advocacy campaign called Stay Fit for Duty. The primary purpose of Stay Fit for Duty is to give everyone in the first responder and healthcare provider community a place to speak on their own mental health and their trials and tribulations and what they're feeling and how they're feeling it. We work very closely with peer support communities within this network. I also help run my agency's peer support team and have helped train some fantastic paramedics and nurses throughout their tenure in becoming formalized peer supporters. We work on encouraging the utilization of mental health resources. We work on helping those clinicians that are wary of reaching out to mental health resources find some avenues that they can go see some of the available mental health resources that they have, and in some cases, help them actually formally utilize them. We have done a lot of work in a little bit under 3 full years now, and our goal is no different than Dina's goal. Our goal is to help reduce the stigma of needing help and to help give you the support, the resources, and the advocacy you need to find that help when and if you need it.
Thank you, James, for sharing a little of your personal story and about your foundation, because I think it's so important. And I think what we talked about a couple weeks ago when we were chatting with Bill, we talked about how helpers can't need help, right? Like we're the
Exactly.
ones who, or you all first responders, fire, police, EMS are the ones who are helping everyone else when they're in a time of hardship. And so it's hard for you to admit that you need help or ask for help in some ways. And would you just talk a little bit about how somebody in that situation as a first responder might be able to ask for help? And I know they can contact your organization, but if just some encouragement for anyone who's in that place and what they should do.
Absolutely. It's very department and employer specific as far as some of the avenues that you can go down.
Mhm.
I would start by talking to your peers and talking to colleagues that you trust and having those peer to peer conversations, explaining what you need or explaining what you're feeling per se, instead of explaining what you need, and seeing if colleagues of yours have gone through similar experiences and pros and cons that they've had with different avenues they've gone down. The next step from there, after you've reached out to a peer, if you haven't gotten what you need from a peer or a formalized peer support team, now's a good place to say that not every agency has a formalized peer support team, but a vast number of regions do. So even if your own individual agency doesn't have a team, can you reach out and see if there's one within more of a geographical network? And Stay Fit for Duty can certainly be helpful, kind of making those connections, or pointing you to those connections if you need them, or looping you in with peer supporters on a national level. There are national peer support teams that are focused on healthcare providers and first responders. There are also national crisis lines that are available for anyone, anytime, 24/7, 365. Once you get beyond that space, I would see what your employer has for what's called an EAP, or an employee assistance program. Traditionally, in our profession, those haven't gotten the best press over the years. I'm here to tell you that a vast majority of them have gone through a pretty good upgrade and are definitely much more improved from what we traditionally knew our employee assistance programs to be. It is upsetting to me that a vast majority of people don't know that their employer has that assistance available to them. So definitely asking the question and going into that process with an open mind. If you start that process and you don't enjoy it, you always have other options. From there, there are a number of databases that you can reach out to looking for more formalized mental health professionals if you want to go down that route. A colleague of mine in the mental health space always says that, he's kind of the last line of defense. Excuse me, meaning that we start with our peers, and then we look at more formalized peer support, and then we move forward to kind of mental health professionals therein. And what I can't overemphasize about mental health professionals or any of the mental health professional databases that exist is you're in charge of your relationship with your therapist. Oftentimes we think that we have no choice but to be with this one person or sit through this session or do these things. That is certainly not the case. So if you start with a mental health professional and you don't feel that your mental health professional is culturally competent, as we say, really has a good understanding of your profession and what you do, you can work to find one that is, or you can even ask that individual if they have someone that they think might be a better fit for you. You never have to stay with, I don't want to say a bad therapist per se, but you certainly don't have to ever stay with a therapist that you don't feel is a good match for you. That does not mean that reaching out to a mental health professional, a therapist, a counselor, what have you, is still not tremendously beneficial. So, well, very long-winded, Dina. I apologize. That's the kind of order I'd go in. I'd reach out to my colleagues and my teammates. I'd then reach out to my employer to see what resources are available to me, and kind of the confidentiality within those. And then I would continue to reach out to mental health professionals. And as always, because of the core of Dina's Foundation and what we're really looking to do, remember that if you ever feel unsafe, or you think that your health and well-being or the health and well-being of someone that you love or care about is in question, the National Suicide Hotline, the crisis text line 911, which I know is a bit overwhelming for some of us in the profession to call. There are a number of 24/7 immediate assistance lines that are available for you if you feel as though you're an immediate threat to yourself or someone else. So please don't hesitate to use those if you need to.
Yes, thank you, James. And I know those numbers are on our website at the top. I'll make sure they're also on the Facebook and YouTube channels. I'm not sure that they're there. I need to check. But I think that when you mentioned about therapy and bad therapists, I don't know that there are bad therapists, but there are definitely, like you said, people that are the right fit for you. And sometimes it takes a little while to find the right one that you relate to, that you feel comfortable talking to. Um, I know as a teenager, I was taken to therapy a couple times and I wouldn't talk to them. And, now last year when I was 50, I decided to finally talk to a therapist. So it is that comfort level that you have to find with what it is. And if it's not comfortable for you to talk to someone you work with, then reach out to myself or James in our organizations, and we can help you find some resources. Because I think sometimes it's hard to talk to somebody that you work with or somebody that um, in your family. I spent 23 years not talking to anybody about my problem. And so I just want people to know that it's okay to not feel comfortable talking to somebody that someone else thinks you should be comfortable talking to. So you have to
That's a
find
great
what's
point.
right for you, and wherever the help comes from, it matters that you do talk about it, because I think that, in my journey, in the last 18 months, I've been talking about this, which I had never talked about before. And it was so freeing to finally acknowledge some things that had happened in my life and actually be able to talk about them. And it took me months to be able to talk about them without crying, but it's so important because when we release that and we process it for ourselves, we can handle a lot more. We can handle a lot more than we think. But when we're holding all that in, it makes everything harder. It makes us more emotional. It makes us more fragile. And it's so freeing to talk about it to someone that you feel comfortable with. So I just wanted to throw that in.
I think that's an amazing point. And, one of, as we look at some of the positives of the COVID-19 pandemic, and while there aren't many for sure, one of the many in the mental health realm is the idea of telehealth. And a great counselor that I know who lives just outside of Boston can now see someone throughout all of Massachusetts. So as we talk about, rightly so, some peer support, it goes both ways, right? Some people feel very empowered and welcome to talk to colleagues within their department. Some people would dive into dive away from colleagues that saw them going into a counselor or a therapist's office. So now we have a medium that we haven't been able to utilize in the past where I can see a counselor who is maybe 200 miles from my home, or I can see them in the comfort of my home. I see a counselor monthly. I never loved her office. It just wasn't my speed, right? And it's really nice, especially for any of us that are so busy, to say, yeah, I can make an hour appointment work when it's literally just an hour, and I can go into my office or stay in my car or do whatever and have this appointment, and not 2 hours, right? A half hour there, an hour session, a half hour back. So for those of you that are uncomfortable reaching out within your departments, which again is completely understandable if that's what makes you feel the most comfortable, know that there are still very, very good options. And that's where programs like mine, the Realize Foundation, and a tremendous number of other programs that either I'm affiliated with or that Tina's affiliated with, can be that sounding board for you and help you find that resource that you're comfortable reaching out to, or inform you of resources that, like I said before, you've had but you didn't know that you had.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I will say that, we're working on how to create a page for resources on our website. And because we're targeting the world, it makes it a little hard to have, the community resources for every city, and all of that. But we definitely have the National Suicide Hotline on our website, and I know the new national U.S. number is coming out soon.
Hmm.
That instead of 911, I think it's 988, if I remember
Yep.
correctly. I don't know exactly what date that goes into effect, but that's going to be very helpful, I think, for people to be able to remember. It's hard to remember a phone number or where to find it when you're in that space. So I'm excited about that. And we want to partner with organizations like James and others that eventually I would like to be able for us to give grants to people who are providing services since that is not our focus. Our focus is the public service announcement and the education and awareness. And maybe we'll have some even virtual events in the future that I'm working on. But I think that the resources are not necessarily on our website as much. And when we talk with people, when we have these conversations, then we put the organization's information in the post on our Facebook page or in LinkedIn or on YouTube. So you can find those. But we are working on some more robust things on our website. So I just wanted to put that out there and let people know that more is coming. And I want to thank you, James, for having this conversation with me today
Oh, it's my
because
pleasure. Thank you for meeting with me.
I know it will, someday someone will listen to this and it will help them.
Absolutely.
And I know we have somebody, I think Tina's listening. So nice to see you, Tina. It's been a while since I've seen your name.
Awesome.
Um,
Thank you for being here.
and I just want to say that, as we all know, this pandemic time frame has been hard, but it wasn't, um, you know, these issues have been going on for decades. It's not new. It's just that I think COVID has exacerbated some of them, and I think our numbers are higher. And I've seen a few things about overdoses in Denver, or the teen suicide attempt rate, or at least going to the hospital for something, has raised. And they said in teenage boys it's raised like 3.5%, but in teenage girls it's raised almost 50%. And so next month in July, we're going to be talking about youth and parents, and I'm hoping that that will really help a lot of people, because it's such an important topic right now, um, as well as first responders. So I just wanted to put that up there, because we're going to be having some of those conversations. And so I just wanted to remind everybody to please reach out to those people who are close to you and have the conversation. Let them know you are there. Even if you're just listening and you don't know what to say, that's okay. They just need to know that someone cares and that they're not alone. So, with that said, you can follow this page for more live conversations and discussions, and we will have a different topic each month, as I just described. July will be youth and parents. And then August, we're going to be talking to lost survivors. So people who have lost someone close to them to suicide. You can find our website again at realizefoundation.org, or Google #SaveALifeChallenge. We hope you will subscribe and donate if you are able. And remember that Save a Life Challenge is all about having the conversation.